Hey, you said you were going to ask me questions.
That's where you get to say hello. This is gonna be a shit show.
Come here, sit down from hell.
All right,
Hello
Mama, let's
there.
see.
Welcome to the Bucklesberry Lemonade Podcast. Go.
Susan Newsom Lynch, along with her first cousin and lover, Fritz Kleiner. I hope I'm saying that right. K
I
L
believe it's
E
Kleiner.
Kleiner.
Mhm.
Kleiner killed 9 people, and that is including themselves, in 1984 and 85. Lynch was a daughter of R.J. Reynolds, executive Bob Newsom, and was named after her maternal aunt, Susie Sharp, the first female North Carolina Supreme Court justice. Susie Newsom grew up in Winston-Salem and married Tom Lynch, the son of a high ranking GE executive whom she met while the two attended Wake Forest University. Susie and Tom split in 1979 and she gained custody of their 2 sons, John and Jim. In 1980, she became reacquainted with her cousin, Fritz, whose mother was also the sister of Judge Susie Sharp. They were cousins.
Mhm.
Fritz worked in Reidsville with his father, Dr. Fred Kleiner, while pretending to be in medical school at Duke.
In July 1984, Dolores Lynch and Janie Lynch, the mother and sister of Tom Lynch, were shot at close range with a high powered weapon inside Dolores's home in Kentucky. Police say it looked like a professional hit. The shooting The shootings came days before Tom was supposed to take John and Jim to Kentucky to visit their grandmother.
On May 18th, 1985, Fritz, having convinced 21-year-old Ian Perkins of Reidsville that he was in the CIA, recruited Perkins to assist him in killing what Kleiner alleged were communist drug traffickers in Winston-Salem. Perkins drove Fritz to a wealthy Winston-Salem neighborhood to carry out his mission. Those quote unquote drug traffickers were actually Susie's parents and grandmother, Bob and Florence Newsom, and Bob's mother, Hattie. The Newsoms, who lived directly across the street from poet and author Maya Angelou, had been assisting Tom Lynch in getting more visitation rights for his son, which had enraged Susie. Perkins went on to wear a wire for the police in an effort to catch Fritz.
The outcome? Well, on June 3rd, 1985, unmarked police cars from various agencies, Forsyth County deputies, Greensboro police, the SBI agents, and Kentucky State Police, they followed Fritz Kleiner to Susie's Greensboro apartment. They watched Fritz and Susie load a Chevy Blazer with camping supplies, and then John and Jim and the family dog. As the Blazer got on the road, police surrounded the vehicle and waved Kleiner to stop. He fired a 9mm submachine gun at officers. He injured a Greensboro police officer and a Kentucky detective. Kleiner took off again, then turned east on NC 150 and pulled over again. Residents heard more gunfire, then clicks, followed by an explosion. Susie and Fritz had blown up the Blazer and everything in it. It was later determined that John and Jim were dead before the explosion, having been poisoned and shot in the head by their mother.
And welcome back, sweetheart.
Well, welcome back, my dear
And
lovely
welcome
bride.
back, our lovely listeners.
Thanks, guys. We're glad you're back with us. Well, we have got a tale of intrigue, kissing
Woo!
cousins, bombs, explosions, fake medical degrees.
All
Let's
kinds
try.
of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
What more
doesn't
could you
get-
want?
could you make this stuff up?
Yeah. And you know what? These are well to do kissing cousins.
Yeah, not what you what we're
Would
typically
consider.
stereocast as or stereotyped as. These guys are not backwoods and inbred.
Nope, they are not.
They are
Uh,
high
R-
class.
R.J. Reynolds lived across the street from Maya Angelou. GE executives, um, all kinds of good stuff. I mean,
Yeah. Doctor, son of a doctor.
pretend doctors,
Yeah, pretend doctors.
pretend
Uh,
CIA agents.
pretend CIA. Um, quackery, possibly. Al-
Hmm.
Although I believe you should take high doses of vitamin C. So I'm gonna say Fritz's dad was probably a genius ahead of his time. I don't know, maybe not.
He probably was. He probably really was. He
But
had to be smart.
Fritz was a silver-tongued devil.
Fritz was crazy.
Fritz is crazier than hell, and I'll tell you somebody else who's crazy too. Susie
Miss
Newsom
Lynch.
Lynch. The
Miss
bitch is
Lynch.
crazy.
Uh-huh. I mean, and just killing people because they're helping the ex-husband. Well, if she'd been doing right, you know.
You know,
No, we are all over the country too. We're in Albuquerque.
yep.
And
Kentucky,
yeah.
North Carolina.
Was it Germany?
No, that's the other podcast that we were.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I don't want to speak ahead of my time.
Hey, you're paying attention. That's all. We're paying
Okay.
But you know, so right around this time, we'll start setting the stage based on what we were reading. We know Fritz Kleiner faked a medical degree to Duke University. Okay,
Yeah, we do know
and
that.
he went to work for his father, and nobody ever questioned a lack of seeing a degree or anything like that.
That to me is just crazy.
And I guess a lot of that has to do with the time, maybe.
In the early 80s, maybe, but still, wouldn't you want to know, at least call to
Yeah.
school, make sure he's going?
And Fritz's dad, Dr. Kleiner, had what was called a very strong inclination to prescribe you vitamin C, very, very high doses of vitamin C.
But that's what a lot cures a lot now. That's what they say.
That's what they say. Well, I mean, you've got vitamin infusion therapy, you've got chelation therapy, and all these things are is that over you go and you get an IV and you sit for a few hours while your body's basically infused with every vitamin known to man. And a lot of people swear by it, and a lot of people say it's quackery.
Yes. Uh-huh. Well, I
So
know somebody. Well, I don't know them, but I've seen them on Facebook, and right now that's the only thing that's helping her can deal with it. She's got some kind of cancer that's attacking her whole body,
mhm,
and that helps. They say, but it's expensive getting the high doses of the vitamin C now, like she's needing.
it's very expensive. It's very expensive. I actually knew some people who had gotten it a few times, and this was back, let's say, probably the very late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
Hmm.
And it was right at $85 session for an hour.
Mm.
So, it makes you wonder. You know how I feel about stuff like that. I'm very inclined to say I believe in that quicker than I do traditional medicine.
I
Um,
do in some ways. Yes, I do. I believe you need it for some things, but I think if we are, I believe a lot of the old sayings is actually true.
oh yeah, yeah, I agree with that. But I also feel, and I think you feel this way too. I think there's room for medicine. I think there's medicines in there that are definitely beneficial.
Yes. Okay. We could get off on a whole nother
That's a
tangent.
that's a whole nother podcast. So Susie Newsom Lynch. Okay.
Mhm.
We know that she grew up in Winston Salem. She got married to a Tom Lynch, and we know that Susie was sickly as a child, and her parents doted on her, and so over time
That's why she got entitled.
she had a deep sense of entitlement because she learned to manipulate this, and she had a temper. Tom, who ended up being her ex-husband, said she was combative,
Oh, wow.
and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But we also know that um, she she probably was abusing her children. Uh,
Yeah. Well, we know she did at the end with the arsenic, so she probably was before that.
yeah, yeah. It says that they had went to visit their father. I'm getting ahead of the story a little bit, but they went to visit their dad in Arizona, and they were noted as having bruises that weren't readily
Got you.
explained. So, but we know that she grew up in a very high class family from Winston Salem. Um, we know that she was named after her maternal aunt, Susie Sharp,
The
uh,
first North Carolina, what, U.S., what was it?
Supreme. Yeah,
Supreme Court Justice.
yeah, and so she's coming from a long line of very well to do people, and we're talking some serious old North Carolina money.
Yes, very.
Um, and living up around Winston Salem, around that area, that's an older part of North
Yes.
Carolina. People knew who she was. People knew when her family names like Sharp, when that name got dropped, people knew who that was. Newsom, they knew who these names, who these people were when these names were dropped.
Yes.
So her and Tom get married, uh, and things don't go well.
Hmm.
And so Tom ends up going to uh, he gets a job for a dental practice in Arizona. They moved to
And she
Arizona.
didn't like Arizona.
She hated it, absolutely hated it, and she didn't like the weather. Um, it wasn't North Carolina. Several people have said that was all true. What she said, she clashed with her neighbors. Some of those clashes were physical. But the biggest issue for her, she was a nobody. Her name didn't mean anything to
And
anybody.
that it was a that's is so that's entitlement there, boy.
Deep, deep
She
sense of entitlement. Deep, deep sense of entitlement.
mhm.
And she's grown up this way. I mean, this is the life that she's known all her life.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, Tom Lynch and her they've moved to Arizona, and things just don't work out. So they end up
New Mexico.
moving to New Mexico, which was a bust. That didn't work, and
And
it
she
didn't.
went I
They,
think she went back to see her Winston-Salem to see her grandfather who was sick.
yeah, and then she left for Taiwan right after that. Is that right?
Yes, that's after that.
Yeah, and so she goes to Taiwan as an English um, teacher. Just I
I
guess
knew there was I knew there was some I was Germany somewhere I was thinking. I knew there was some she went somewhere else, I thought.
she may have. I don't recall, but
No, the
um,
Taiwan. Remember when we were talking about it at the beginning?
oh yeah, she went to Taiwan as an English teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know if you were saying she had went somewhere else.
No, 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 no.
Guys, sometimes when we plan these podcasts, we go over two or three at a time, and sometimes they blend together.
Sorry. I
It's
did not
okay.
mean to mess it up.
No, because I was sitting there thinking, well, did they go somewhere? I mean, so that's all me. Um, but so at this point, their marriage is deteriorating. They do have two children, two boys, um, and things just aren't going good for them. And so she comes back, visits her ailing grandfather. She basically drops the bomb on Tom and says, "Hey, we're done. I'm done."
Yep.
And she gets an apartment and moves to Greensboro. And so at this point in time, she's starting to show up at the medical practice that Fritz is being a pretend doctor at.
Yeah.
And but is that really out of the ordinary? You're in Greensboro, your first cousin works down the street. Is that
Yeah.
really too
That's not
unusual in North Carolina to drop by
not
and say,
really.
"Hey"?
Not at all.
Nah, because growing up around here, hell, your first cousins were like brothers and sisters.
Yep.
So, um, somewhere in between these vitamin C prescriptions, Fritz and Susie begin an affair. And Susie's about 7 years older than Fritz. And Fritz likes to do what, Miss Lisa?
What do you mean? He likes to hold on.
He
He
likes
like
to tell lies and works
oh,
for who?
the CIA.
Exactly.
Well, he worked for the doctor's office first. That was the
Yeah.
first one.
So old Fritz at this point. So I think what you've got here, you've got,
Oh my goodness. It said he would disappear mysteriously for long periods of time into the woods, and no one, not even his family, had a clue where he might be.
yeah, just take right off. And so I think you've got irresistible force meeting an immovable object between these two right here.
Yeah.
I think what happened is they're just enough crazy between the both of them. This created some heat.
Yep. Now you had to create something.
Yeah, it did.
And her seeing him drove a larger wedge in between her and her family. Her mother, whom Susie was described as being very close when she was younger.
Yeah, yeah, and you wonder at this point who's really manipulating who.
I don't know because you think it might be her, but then it could just as easily be him.
Well, if we had to pick a side, you would side with her and I would side with him. You think?
Probably so.
Why would you side with her?
Why? I don't know because I wouldn't side with him either. I mean,
I'll tell you why I would side with him.
why?
His name is Fritz Cleaner. Can you? I mean, damn, Fritz Kleiner.
Clanner, not Clanner.
Kleiner. Can you get any cooler than that? My name's Fritz. How are you? I'm a doctor.
Well,
And Fritz was like,
I'm a CIA agent. Shh,
"That's right.
don't tell anybody.
Just don't tell anybody." And
I weren't supposed to tell you.
no, but that's what happened with old Fritz. I think
Yeah.
Fritz just used to having his way, womanizer, got
Yeah.
money, done told daddy I'm a doctor. Daddy ain't checked report cards. Degrees, report cards, no office manager. Ain't nobody done shit. My name just Fritz. I show up, give me a paycheck. What I'm getting at is this guy has got a pair on him. So I think it would be him manipulating her.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably so.
But I can
She
also
has ulterior motives, though.
that's
She
where I was
wants,
going. That's what I was
she
getting ready to say.
wants, she wants X gone because he's trying to take the kids.
Yep.
She's trying to drive a wedge even further between her family. She does it just because, that's ego there. I mean, she wants whatever, good or bad. Her
Yeah,
name's
it's ego. And you think about it, um, she's mad because they're the in-laws trying to help get the kids and all this stuff. So uh, let's just kill everybody.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you got Fritz, and this is where I play devil's advocate. Maybe she manipulated him. Maybe Fritz is fragile. Maybe deep inside he knows I didn't graduate medical school. I didn't go to Vietnam. I've never been with the CIA. I'm nothing but just a Carolina boy who's all dressed up on the inside and all broke down on the inside. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you know that at this point, hey, I can do this for Susie and impress her and show her just what I really am? I'm going to pull out the CIA training and
Yep.
my
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam training. And because you remember, they said it looked like a professional hit on the ex in laws. Remember? Look professional. That's what they said, right? And I'm going to go so far as to get me a little 21-year-old sidekick named Ian Perkins. And he's going to help me in my little endeavor. And I'll impress Susie and we'll
Uh-huh.
go out guns a blazing, but she'll know I'm the man. That
Yeah. Yeah, but she didn't think it through. I mean, she really didn't.
No, I don't think she did either.
Because look what happened.
Hmm. Yep, pretty
They
bad stuff. So I guess the thing, we're circling all around it. We've made light of it and joked about it and all that. But
Yep.
how do you get to people? And I get she's 7 years older than he is. I get that they probably didn't know each other that well moving around. But and I joked about it earlier. I said when I said, I think that's so much crazy it created heat, I'm going to maintain that. It's a good theory. But how do two people let this thing happen? How come they didn't stop and look at each other and say, "Hey, we're cousins and we're from well-to-do families"? Imagine the scandal, the Southern scandal.
That might be why they did it.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it could be something as simple as that. But now all this other stuff, they were just plain crazy because she used to be an intelligent woman.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying. I'll get it out. Who's manipulating who? Is she manipulating him? Is he manipulating her? And like I
Uh,
said, I'll go the man role. I
I
I
don't think she would want to kill herself and her children. I mean, I don't think.
well, I think that's probably that at that point somewhere in there they probably made a blood pact or something. You think?
Okay, maybe,
So
maybe.
I mean, I don't know. It just makes you wonder. But prior to the explosion, um, the boys, um, John and James, they end up in New Mexico to visit their dad Tom. And it's at this point that Tom's remarried. He in his mind he's got away from crazy and he's settled down. He's made him a life. Um, and there's some articles out there how remorseful this man is over this stuff that's happened with his two boys.
Mm,
Um, and prayers for him because
yes, yes,
that's something
very
he's living with right there.
every single day. Yes.
You know, it's
That-
just horrible. But they show up. The boys are pale, like they've been in lockdown. Um,
Bruised
they're
up.
bruised, and they've got huge bags of vitamins, all kinds of vitamins. But you see, at this point,
I'm wondering why the father didn't keep the pills and find out what they were giving them.
see, that's what I'm saying a while ago. Yeah, that's part of his grief.
Yep.
Um, sometimes how your exes, you don't know them, but you do know them, and you know them well enough to, well, he's just talking shit. She's just talking shit. You know, not really realizing, oh, this could be real. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I feel for him, but at the same time, he should have kept them and kept them babies. And if she wanted to be crazy, let her be crazy.
maybe, maybe. You know, I don't.
I
I,
mean, because those
well,
babies, if they,
but you know, the thing too there, um, we were joking about or talking about who manipulated who. If she was manipulating him, and I honestly think they were manipulating each other.
oh,
Uh,
they were. I believe that.
you know the boys have showed up now and they've been beat and they've been beat because mom we know has a history of this kind of stuff. We've talked about it already. Her ex-husband Tom has said she was combative. um
Yeah.
People out when they were in Arizona said the boys would show up with bruises, and there was even one instance where one of the boys was questioned, and the comment was made. The little boy made the comment, "No, I slipped or whatever." And Susie flat out said, "No, tell the truth. I slapped the hell out of it."
Oh my goodness.
So we
Mm,
see this here. She's done this damage, but them being pale that stuck out to me for a couple of reasons. What if this is Fritz at this point? What if he's trying to do some of this CIA stuff that he's dreamed about being, watching all these James Bond movies and stuff, and maybe he's and has tied these boys up or held them
I
captive
think they kept. I
experiment.
think he's kept them in. I think he's kept them in the house,
He had
away
them in
from everything.
Quantico or something, I guess. Yeah, North
Yep.
Carolina.
Mhm.
That just stuck out to me. That was just odd to me.
That and probably not eating enough. Probably whatever the vitamins, quote unquote, that she was giving them.
And that's another thing. The vitamins show the influence he's got over the household.
Yep.
But why hadn't anybody um wondering, hey, ain't something going on here? I mean, because you know, Fritz has took her parents on camping trips by now. I mean, everybody's all lovey dovey, close up to one another. Ain't nobody said, hey, you know, y'all kind of looking at each other kind of funny.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know, I don't know. I guess I just find that disturbing. So, but anyway, now a little more time has passed, and w- we see that both of them, um, but both of these people, they're like personal tornadoes, and they're on a collision course with each other to create a bigger storm. Is that fair enough?
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. So we know at this point that there could be some plots to kill people.
The the ex-husband. I see here where he convinced Susie that her ex-husband was up to no good and part of a drug ring.
Yeah, part of a drug ring. And you know, finally we talked about 21-year-old Ian Perkins. You know, if he hadn't went to the authorities and they wired him, um, imagine the damage that possibly could have been done. Um,
I know.
so he's telling them all these things that he's being told, and they go and make the attempt to head them off.
Mm-mm-mm.
And the next thing you know, there's this huge explosion. And the cars are on fire. Um, there's been bullets that were shot previously leading up to the explosion.
Yeah.
People have gotten injured. I mean, the death count here in total was at 9.
Yeah.
Fritz Kleiner is actually considered a serial killer.
Yes, he is.
So we know at this point that this has happened, and we talked about them being individual storms waiting to collide. The other piece of evidence that hangs out here to me is again the 21-year-old Perkins,
Yeah.
Ian Perkins. If
Mhm.
he hadn't stepped forward, now I know that when they blew the vehicle up, they killed themselves and the two boys. So that's four right
Yeah.
there. Okay, got other people that are dead as well.
Yeah.
Wonder what the count would have been. That's the other part that you find interesting too, is it kind of trails off there. Um, but would Fritz have tried to kill his parents?
I know. I don't know.
It makes you wonder.
I know. Did
So
we ever find anything about his parents?
no, no, just that his dad had a had a reputation as kind of being a quack, but had a very busy office. The guy was making a lot of money. Um, which means he probably really wasn't a quack.
Yeah, he probably weren't.
Usually quacks get found out. So
They sure do.
so they've had this explosion, and all this has happened, and the boys are dead. Um, there's some back and forth on that. Uh, some say she poisoned them, right?
Yeah.
But they also had shots.
Gunshot wounds to their head.
Yeah, yeah. So was that done to make sure maybe the poison hadn't kicked in yet?
Well, what I read somewhere is they think they give them the poison for them to go to sleep. And then that's when they went to sleep. That's when they shot 'em. They were asleep when they got shot in the head.
Mm.
So they never knew as far as that.
They probably they planned this, when Susie and Fritz planned this, they probably wholeheartedly, foolhardily believed they were going to get away with this.
Probably.
But somewhere in there, and this goes back to Fritz because I'm telling you, I think Fritz is uh, a wannabe survivalist,
I think
wannabe
so.
wannabe
Or he
soldier.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those guys that those magazines and things like that were popular around that time. And I think Fritz wanted to be part of all this. So somewhere in there, Fritz has developed a secondary plan. We're going to take guns with us and explosives. Kleiner had to have built the explosive. Nowhere in here does it give any indication that Susie knew how to do that.
No.
I
But as
guess he
smart as
could.
she used to be, she could have probably.
Well, I guess, they could have ordered the parts and she could read them in Taiwanese to him, I guess. So, um,
Mm.
so he's open fire with a 9mm submachine gun. And how's he getting these things? He's got
It
these.
says that friends, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. You got some damn friends, ain't
Mhm.
you? And
Wow.
so all this is happening. I think that was probably all in Fritz's planning there. Um, Folks, if you guys are looking for something that's a really good read, the name of the book is called Bitter Blood.
Bitter Blood by author Jerry Bledsoe.
Yep. And that
And
is not an
publisher is Dutton.
affiliate
It's not.
suggestion. Yeah,
No, it's not. We're just letting you know where we got some of the information.
absolutely. However, you can visit us at www.bucklesberrylemonade.com.
.com.
.com. And that would be greatly appreciated. But he's got friends that are giving him explosions and guns like this.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, from a North Carolina perspective, when this happened, this especially in this time period, okay, in the 80s, you know, we are still in the very deep grip of the South at this point in the mid early 80s. This was scandalous.
It was very scandalous.
Scandalous in the city because one, you've got people of wealth. Their name is known. A lot of money. I mean, you got people here that are related to Supreme Court justices and attorneys and doctors and in Congress, things like this. And this is the scandal that two of our very own have committed all these heinous deeds. But not only that, they were kissing cousins.
Yep.
And so I remember this. This was very scandalous back then.
Seemed like I don't remember it, or maybe I didn't watch the news then. I was a teenager. So were you, but I didn't care about what was going on back then when I was.
I'm surprised with that love that you've got for true crime. I'm surprised. Miss True Detective.
I know. I wished I'd had it back then.
Yeah, well, they actually made a movie, made for TV movie, and it might have been a Lifetime movie about this. I don't recall the name of it, but there was a movie made about it as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, you know, if anybody wants to take a look at that, I'm sure they could probably find that. But we are pretty much at the end of our episode for today. Thank you guys so much for being here with us, for growing this channel, growing our podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you. And I'll leave it up to you, my lovely bride.
Well, I do thank you very much, and we sure hope you come back and visit us. Bucklesberry Lemonade.
See you next time.
Next time.